Hi friends, welcome to another interesting session on image signing and validating. So this is one interesting topic on how to sign your images before they can be deployed to your cluster, and how we can validate those signatures before deploying it to our cluster. So we can take any conventional approach with our CI/CD pipeline and validating the image while we are deploying using our pipeline, but we'll take the GitOps approach. Okay. So there are a few considerations. First, how you will sign your images. So what are the best practices and what are the tools in market that is available and widely used? So the widely used tool is Cosign. It is from Sixstar. Sixstar has few other components like the policy controller and certificate provider, but we'll mostly discuss the signing part of it today with Cosign. And then for the policy controller and key management, we are using few other tools. Okay, that we'll be discussing. Okay, so first thing is signing the image, and you can sign the image using Cosign with its own key. So Cosign can generate its own public and private key, and you can use those keys to sign your image and put it in your registry, and then probably use the same key to validate the signature. Okay, but rather than doing that, so most of the organizations, they prefer to have a KMS, and they generally uh, have one KMS for them where they maintain all their keys, okay, like the Google KMS or Amazon AWS KMS or Azure one. So you can pull that key. So Cosign can pull that key from that key management system, and you use that key to sign the image. And while validating that, the same key can be pulled from the KMS again. Okay. So that is the concept behind putting your key in KMS and using that key in your Cosign to sign your images. Okay. Now, once the image has been signed and the SHA has been pushed to your registry, okay, then it is time to deploy your image, and while deploying, validating the signature. Okay. So when you validate the image or validate the signature of the image, you can do it either in your CI/CD pipeline and validate that this image is proper image or not, proper signature is applied to that or not, and then you can go ahead and deploy it to your cluster. Okay, but that is a conventional approach, and today we'll be discussing something more Knative and GitOps. Okay, so one of the most widely used policy controller tool nowadays is Kyverno. So Kyverno comes with its own admission controller. So you can configure your admission controller so that it can be able to validate your signature, because it has integration with Cosign. So it will use Cosign to pull the key from your KMS system and validate your image signature against that key. Okay, so that is the flow, and we are going to have a proper demo. Okay, so it will be a live demo, so where we'll first sign the image with Cosign generated keys, and then probably we'll go and sign the same image with another key which will be maintained in our key management system, Google KMS, and then how Kyverno can be used, Kyverno admission controller can be used to validate that signature of the image, and then allow that deployment to go into our cluster. That also we'll look into. Okay. So let's pause here and then move towards our actual demo. So I have already created one Kubernetes cluster in my GKE, and I have one folder inside which I'm maintaining all my files. So first thing, what I'm going to do, I'm just exporting my project name here, and this is my registry. So we need to have Cosign. So I am going to install Cosign first. So now if you see here, so now it is installed. Now I can generate a Cosign key pair. So Cosign generate key pair, and you can give any password. So it will generate the Cosign public and private key for you. So you can, I'm copying it to my Cosign folder. So if you see my Cosign folder now, so I have the Cosign key and Cosign pub. Okay. So now I have to install Kyverno. So this is my policy controller. So I'm adding the Helm repo, and then I'm going to install Kyverno. Okay. Okay, now Kyverno is installed. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to install YQ. So YQ is a good tool for your token replacement. So I'll just use YQ to replace my image tag and all. Okay. So this is my uh, image that I have maintained in my GCR. Okay. So my Google Cloud Container Registry. So first, let me do this. So I have created one deployment YML. So let me show you that one. So this is my deployment YML, and here I have just changed this image. So this is the image that I am going to use, and this I am going to deploy. Okay. So now I have not signed this particular image now. Okay. So let me, and now just let me validate this. Okay. So if you go here using Cosign, if I will verify now, so it should say that this is not having a valid signature. Okay. So no matching signature, it is saying. Okay. So let me show you the Kyverno YML. So also we'll see in Kyverno it is working fine or not. So this is my Kyverno YML. Okay, and this is the public key. Okay, so this public key I'm going to replace with my generated public key right now. Okay, so let me do that first. So now using my editor, I have already um, edited this file with the new public key. So let me go to my console. And what I'm going to do now is I have already updated my this Kyverno YML. Okay, so if you see the Kyverno YML again, so this is the policy actually. Okay, now this policy will work for pods and deployments. So you can add your kinds here. What kind of object will be validated against this, and it will verify the image in this pod and deployment. Okay, uh, and the verification will be done against this key. Okay, and this key is the key that is generated by Cosign. Okay, so now if you deploy this policy controller in your Kubernetes control, that it will be working as an admission controller. Okay, so let me apply this first. So I have created one namespace called as production, and inside that I am going to apply this first. Okay, so now it is configured and it is running. So now this deployment file that we changed, okay, which is pointing to our image, which is not signed yet, I'm trying to deploy that one. Okay, so this is my deployment.yml. Now it will be saying that fail to verify the image. Okay, so let me try try to sign the image, and then we'll do the same thing again. Okay, yeah, sorry, I was getting a different error here while applying the deployment, because already I was having a cluster policy, so I deleted that cluster policy which was actually validating against the KMS key. So now let me try to deploy again to show you. So this is my deployment. Okay, and I'm trying to deploy it, and now you can see that it is trying to verify the image. Okay, but it is failing. Okay, now because uh, this the signing or the signature is not applied to that image, that's why it is now failing. Okay. So we'll try to sign the image first and then see if it is working or not. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to sign this image first and then I'm going to verify. Okay, so let's start. So I'm using the same key that we generated. Okay, so now it is asking for the password. So the signature is now pushed to the GCR, and now we can see, okay, whether means the it it is able to validate that image or not. Okay, now let's first see the manual way by Cosign verification. So now it is saying that it is valid. Okay, so it is validated and is fine. Now let's see by applying the deployment to the cluster now. So now we have put that key, the public key, in the YML. So now let's try to deploy it. So deployment dot now you can see it is getting deployed. Okay. So now we used the Cosign generated keys for signing the image and then validating against it. Okay. So and it works fine. Okay. But as we discussed, it is always better to manage the keys inside your own KMS. So I'm going to use Google KMS for the same, and we'll have to create the key and the key ring, and then we'll use the same key uh, in our cosign signing process. Okay. So before doing that, what I'm doing, I'm going to first enable my Google Cloud API, KMS API. So now it is enabled. Then I'm going to create one key ring. Okay. So let's name this as maybe normal key cosine key Kyverno, and then maybe this one as well, cosine key, because I already had created one with new, so I don't want to take that risk, so I'm just going to create another one. Okay, so I'm going to do it in USS1. So now I'm first going to create the keyring, and then I'm going to create the key. Okay, now if you go to the KMS, then it must have been created. So I'm going here into my Google KMS, and you can see the new one is created here. Okay, now we are going to use the same while signing our image. Okay, so first we'll generate one key pair using the keyring and the key. Okay, so let's do that. So it will be done by Cosign, and here you can see it is using our Google KMS, the registry project, region, and the keyring and the key. Okay. So now it will be generated. Okay, so the Cosign pub is written, and now what I'm going to do, I'm going to sign the image. Okay, so because I have already signed the earlier image, let me do one thing. Let me pull this one. Okay. and what we'll do, we'll tag it differently. Okay, so image new maybe 2.0. Okay, okay, now we are going to also have 2.0, and we are going to push it as 2.0. Okay, so now it is pushed, or maybe better because I have already pushed it, so I'll do it like this maybe. And then again this one. And now here first, let me first verify this one. Okay, so now if I'll verify, because it is not signed yet, so it should fail, right? Or let me. So once we verify this one, so it is saying no matching signature. Okay, so now it's time to go ahead here and sign sign the new image using the key. Okay. So now instead of this one, this image, I'm going to take this image. Yes, and sign. Okay, so now we are going to verify here. Okay. So using the same key, we are going to just verify whether it is working fine or not. Yeah, it is fine. It is validating. Now we'll do something. We will have to use this particular key, okay, to validate, okay, using Cosign, and this will be pulled from our KMS. The key will be pulled from our KMS, and against that it will start validating. Okay, and it will validate while it is getting deployed. The pod is getting deployed into our cluster. Okay, so let's start that configuration. So we'll have to do certain workload identity configuration. We'll have to create one service account, and then we'll have to give that service account proper credentials, proper roles, so that it can have access to the KMS. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and create one service account, okay, in Kubernetes, which will impersonate as the Google created service account, so that it can interact directly with the KMS with that service account to pull the keys from there. Okay, so there are certain configuration that I'm going to do right now. So let's start with creating the service account in Google first. So we have created the service account. Now we provide the roles. Okay, so we have workload identity user role, then cloud KMS verifier, cloud KMS viewer, cloud KMS admin role. Okay, so all these I'm going to configure right now. Okay, so now my service account is created and configured. Okay, so now I'll have to add another policy binding, okay, which will say that which namespace and which service account in my Kubernetes cluster are associated with this workload identity user. Okay, so it is in our case Kyverno. Kyverno is the namespace where there is one service account called as Kyverno admission controller, which generally is used, okay, for the validation of the image. So let's start with this one first. We'll configure this one. Okay, now this admission controller, okay, how it will know that it is going to impersonate this particular service account which we created in Google. Okay, so for that we will have to annotate this service account with the service account from Google. Okay, so that I am going to do right now. So if you now go to your Kyverno namespace and check all the service accounts. So you can see there is one Kyverno admission controller. Okay, so let's try to see the content there. Okay, so now you can see it is annotated with this one. The annotation is there. Okay, and now it will act as this uh, the service account from Google itself. Okay, so now let's try to create one cluster level policy, okay, which will use that particular key. Okay, so let me do that from KMS. So the policy is created. Okay, and let's see kubectl edit cluster policy check image. So you can see that, so it is with the proper name, right? The keyring and key name are correct. So what we are going to do now, as the policy is running, okay, and we are going to validate against this. Okay, now suppose I want to deploy the same thing, same deployment. Okay, 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 I have not changed the image tag there, so I need to point to the correct image tag. Okay, so you can see here I am trying to deploy this image which is not signed with uh, the current key from the KMS, because this image we earlier signed with the cosign key, right? So that's why it is not deploying it to our cluster. Okay, now this the one which we signed using our KMS key. Okay, so let's try to deploy that one. Okay, so for that what we need to do, so we had added this one. Okay, so let me do one thing. So let me replace in my deployment file this image, okay, rather than tag one. So I'm using YQ again for that. So okay, now if you see the content of this one, then it is pointing to the new image. Okay, now let's try to apply this one. Okay, so let's try to deploy this deployment YML right now. So I'm going to deploy this one right now, and you can see it is configured. Okay, so this is the way, means you should be maintaining your keys inside your KMS. Okay, and you don't need to validate the signature in your CI/CD pipeline. Rather, that should be in a Knative process, and that process we are following using Kyverno policy controller. So we are configuring on admission controller, okay, and that admission controller is working with Cosign, and it is validating the particular image signature against the key from the KMS. Okay. So how easy it is to implement and how secured and impactful this particular solution, you can find out here. Okay. So that was all, means that was another interesting topic on image signing and validating your signature in a GitOps or Knative way mostly. So we'll come up with some other topics like this in future, mostly GitOps related. So stay tuned and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. We'll meet next time. Thank you.